Welcome, chosen ones, to this transformative journey. If you've ever felt like you're waiting for something bigger to happen in your life, then you're exactly where you need to be. In today's video, we're diving deep into divine timing, spiritual breakthroughs, and the incredible transformation that awaits you. The universe has aligned this moment for you right now, and everything you've been praying for is closer than you think. So, if you're ready to step into your divine purpose, to unlock the mysteries of your true potential, then make sure you stay with us through the entire video. It's not by accident that you're here. God's plan for your life is unfolding now, and you're about to witness miracles. There are moments in life when heaven steps into your story without warning, interrupting everything around you, not to disrupt your path, but to redirect your spirit. As you stand in this moment now, you need to understand that what is unfolding is not ordinary. It is not random. It is not coincidence in disguise. This is the kind of divine interruption heaven reserves for those who have carried weight in silence, endured without recognition, and remained faithful when no one was watching. The atmosphere around you has shifted. Something sacred has entered the room of your life. You may not see it with your natural eyes, but your spirit feels the pull, the stillness, the quiet invitation. Heaven has sent a messenger not to judge you, not to expose you, but to honor you, to acknowledge what the world overlooked, to reveal what God recorded in the places no one else ever entered. This messenger is here because of your faithfulness. You walked through seasons where you were the strong one, even when your own spirit felt fragile. You held your ground when life pushed you to the edge. You continued sowing goodness into people who could not see the cost of your giving. You poured out strength from an empty cup because loving well was part of who you are. These things may have gone unnoticed on earth, but heaven kept record after record after record. Nothing about your endurance was invisible to God. There were nights when your soul cried quietly, when you buried your pain behind responsibilities, when you wiped your tears before anyone could see them. Those moments were not hidden. They were collected. Each one became part of a fragrance rising before God, a fragrance of perseverance, humility, integrity, and obedience. You never asked for recognition. You never demanded applause. You simply remained faithful. And that faithfulness moved heaven. The messenger stands before you now because your life has reached a turning point. This is not simply encouragement. This is activation. Heaven is responding to what you've invested in secret. Divine timing has opened because your heart never closed. And the angel comes not with words, but with revelation. You begin to sense something unfolding around you, a quiet illumination. It is as if the messenger has opened a window in the spiritual realm, and now allows you to see what God always saw. You see moments you forgot, moments where your integrity cost you something. Moments where your kindness was returned with silence. Moments where you chose righteousness when no one was there to witness it. These scenes rise gently, not to burden you, but to show you why heaven is moving on your behalf. Nothing you did was wasted. Nothing you endured was ignored. Nothing you sacrificed remained forgotten. You lived through seasons where you had to be your own comfort, where you kept believing even when hope felt thin, where your prayers were stitched together with exhaustion and determination. Yet you did not harden. You did not grow bitter. You did not let darkness reshape your character. You stayed open. You stayed willing. You stayed faithful. The messenger reveals this truth without a single spoken word. Heaven rejoiced over you, not because you were perfect, but because you remained surrendered. Because you chose compassion over retaliation. Because you walked in integrity when shortcuts looked tempting. Because you held on to God even when the silence felt endless. Zephaniah wrote that God rejoices over his beloved with singing. And now you see that this rejoicing was not poetic, it was personal. It was for you. There is a tenderness in this awakening. A sense that heaven has waited for the right moment to unveil what has always been true about your journey. You were never unseen. You were never forgotten. You were never abandoned. Even when you felt invisible, heaven watched your heart. Even when your prayers felt unanswered, heaven was preparing your reward. Even when your strength felt depleted, heaven was counting every ounce of courage it took to keep moving. The messenger stands with you as a witness to your endurance, not to remind you of what hurt you, but to show you why it mattered. The hidden years were not wasted years. The quiet seasons were not stagnant seasons. The unnoticed sacrifices were not insignificant. They were investments, spiritual seeds planted in tears, watered by resilience, held together by faith. And now, heaven begins to breathe on those seeds. You feel this shift internally before you understand it intellectually. A lifting, a warming, a sense of being seen by something far greater than human eyes. You begin to recognize that heaven was closer to you in the years when you felt most alone. That divine presence surrounded you during moments when you whispered, "God, this is too much." The angel stands beside you as evidence of every moment heaven stepped in to hold you steady, even when you didn't realize you were being held. This awakening unfolds slowly, like dawn gently revealing a world that was always there but hidden in night. The messenger does not speak, yet everything becomes clear. You understand that your compassion, your endurance, your faithfulness did not evaporate into nothingness. They rose before God as remembrance. Heaven responds to such offerings. Heaven sends reinforcement to souls that refuse to collapse. Heaven rewards hearts that keep choosing righteousness in private. You begin to see that this moment is not about receiving comfort, it is about receiving commissioning. Heaven isn't showing you your past to make you sentimental. Heaven is showing you your past to prepare you for what is being released now. Your faithfulness has reached its appointed time. Your endurance has reached maturity. Your hidden integrity has reached heaven's threshold of reward. This angelic visitation symbolizes the shift into a new spiritual reality. You are stepping into a chapter shaped by divine acknowledgement. This is not an emotional high. It is a spiritual transition. This is not motivation. It is revelation. This is not flattery. It is fulfillment. Your life is entering the season where heaven says, "Now. Now you rise. Now you receive. Now you see what your silent faithfulness created." As this part of the narrative closes, one truth settles deeply into your spirit. What you did in silence is being rewarded in revelation. You are not here by accident. Heaven sent for you. As this divine interruption deepens, you begin to sense something shifting in the atmosphere around your spirit. It is not loud, not dramatic, not forceful. It is gentle, steady, unmistakable, like the slow unveiling of a truth you were always meant to understand. The messenger angel remains near, not moving, not speaking, but releasing layers of revelation simply through presence. It is as though the angel carries the weight of every moment you lived unseen, and now heaven is allowing you to witness how sacred those moments truly were. There are seasons in life when you move quietly through pain because there is no space to fall apart. Seasons when you keep showing up even though your heart feels cracked. Seasons when you carry responsibilities that no one else realizes are heavier than they appear. Seasons where your own needs go unmet because you are too busy supporting others. These seasons become woven into the fabric of your history, but here, in this divine unveiling, you see them from heaven's perspective, not your own. You see how heaven watched your endurance in real time. You see how every moment you held your tongue, chose peace, forgave without applause, or walked away from conflict you could have escalated, became a recorded act of righteousness. You see how your patience during seasons of delay was counted as faith, how every small decision to remain kind, even when life felt unfair, became a seed in the soil of your destiny. The messenger angel stands like a guardian of this truth, allowing you to perceive what you couldn't before. Your faithfulness was not small. It was monumental. There were mornings when you woke up carrying weight in your chest, yet still managed to move through your day with grace. Heaven recorded those mornings. There were nights when you cried quietly so no one would worry about you, and still whispered hope into your own soul. Heaven collected those tears. There were moments when you resisted bitterness, even though it would have been easier to give in to anger. Heaven honored those choices. Your unseen goodness became a fragrance in the spiritual realm, rising into the presence of God. The angel reveals this truth not through sound but through a shift in your inner vision. You feel the significance of it in your chest. You sense the holiness of it. For the first time, you realize your unseen efforts created something eternal. Every sacrifice you made while no one was watching became part of a divine archive. Not a list of your pain, but a record of your character. Heaven was not counting your wounds, it was counting your faithfulness. And now you see it clearly. God never evaluates you through the lens of your struggles, but through the lens of your perseverance. Even the moments where you felt weak were counted as strength because you did not quit. Even the moments where you doubted your worth were counted as devotion because you kept seeking truth. Even the moments where you felt spiritually dry were counted as worship because you kept trusting despite the silence. The angel brings forward scenes you haven't thought about in years, not to overwhelm you, but to show you how heaven interpreted them. You see yourself pushing through heartbreak, carrying hope even when something inside you felt shattered. You see yourself in seasons of betrayal, choosing to heal instead of retaliate. You see yourself forgiving people who never apologized. You see yourself walking away from cycles you could have repeated but chose not to. You see yourself offering compassion when you had every right to close your heart. And in each scene, you notice something you never saw before. You were never alone. There was always a presence standing near you, unseen but active. A spiritual covering, a divine nearness, an angelic watch. You realize now that the messenger who stands before you has been near your story for longer than you ever understood. Not directing your choices, but witnessing them. Not preventing your pain, but protecting your purpose. Not overshadowing your struggle, but ensuring every step counted towards something greater. This realization brings a quiet reverence into your spirit. You begin to understand that your faithfulness was not just noticed, it was celebrated. Heaven rejoices over the one who remains committed even when they feel unseen. Heaven delights in the soul that carries goodness even when life offers no reward. Zephaniah's words echo through your awareness. God rejoices over you with singing. Not metaphorically, not symbolically, truly. Your life has been the kind of offering heaven treasures. And now, the messenger angel reveals another layer of truth. Your faithfulness created movement in the spiritual realm. You begin to sense the weight of this reality. Your endurance wasn't passive, it was active. Every time you chose integrity, you pushed back against darkness. Every time you chose compassion, you aligned yourself with heaven's heart. Every time you chose restraint, you protected your future from cycles that could have destroyed it. Your decisions strengthened spiritual momentum. They created openings for what heaven desires to release. Faithfulness is not quiet in heaven. It is loud. Faithfulness is not overlooked in heaven. It is honored. Faithfulness is not forgotten in heaven. It is rewarded. And the angel's presence signals that this is your moment of recognition. The veil lifts further, allowing you to perceive that your life has reached a threshold. The years where you sowed without seeing harvest are meeting the moment where heaven says, "It is time." Not a time created by human effort, but a time activated by spiritual remembrance. A time built from the accumulation of every private act of obedience. A time constructed from the weight of your sincerity. The messenger does not lead you anywhere physically, but your spirit feels as though you have been ushered into a new chamber, one filled with quiet glory. You sense the presence of a heavenly archive, a spiritual treasury where the essence of your faithfulness has gathered. Not as a list, not as a judgment, but as a fragrance, an offering preserved by the God who delights in you. This heavenly recognition is not sentimental, it is functional. This moment exists because heaven is responding. Responding to your endurance, responding to your heart, responding to your unseen sacrifices. The angel stands as evidence that God has remembered you, not yesterday, not someday, but now. And with this remembrance comes activation. You feel it like a pulse, a spiritual shift that moves through your awareness. It is not dramatic, but undeniable, like stepping from shadow into light. You realize you are no longer standing in the season where you must prove your worth or fight to be seen. Heaven has already declared your value. Heaven has already acknowledged your efforts. Heaven has already responded to your faithfulness. Your spirit begins to understand that this awakening is an invitation to receive what has been waiting for you. Not because you earned it through perfection, but because you remained faithful through adversity. Heaven rewards faith, not flawlessness. Heaven rewards sincerity, not performance. Heaven rewards surrender, not self-sufficiency. And this is the beginning of your reward season. The messenger's presence affirms that the next chapter of your journey will not be defined by hiddenness but by unveiling. Not by waiting, but by receiving. Not by endurance alone, but by fulfillment. This is the moment where everything in your spirit begins to rise in recognition of what God has prepared. As this part concludes, one truth rests deeply within you. Heaven saw everything you thought no one noticed. Heaven valued everything you thought didn't matter. Heaven is responding to everything you carried in silence. This is not just comfort. This is commissioning. This is not just reassurance. This is revelation. This is not just acknowledgement. This is activation. You are stepping into the reward of your silent faithfulness. There are parts of your journey that you rarely revisit, the moments so heavy, so intimate, so quietly devastating that even remembering them feels like reopening a sealed room. Yet as you step into this chapter of revelation, the messenger angel remains close, and a gentle unfolding begins. Not to expose your wounds, but to honor them. Not to pull you backward, but to show you the truth heaven recorded all along. You begin to realize that your life contains chapters written in silence, chapters where the world saw your smile but never heard the cracking beneath it, where your strength became an armor no one questioned, where your endurance became a language only heaven understood. The angel unveils these moments not as a reprimand, but as a recognition. Heaven is showing you the sacred value of what you lived through. You see a version of yourself you once tried to forget. A version that held heartbreak without having a place to set it down. A version that walked through loss, with no one to explain the depth of it to. A version that carried betrayal inside a quiet heart because there was no space to speak it aloud. You see yourself standing in places where your spirit was breaking, yet your posture remained steady because you had people relying on you, or because collapsing simply wasn't an option. These were the battles you fought internally, while holding the world together externally. Heaven brings these moments forward not to overwhelm you, but to dignify them. You see yourself giving comfort to others while silently longing for someone to notice you needed comfort too. You see yourself extending forgiveness long before you received any. You see yourself carrying burdens you never asked for, staying strong in situations that never asked if you were tired. You see yourself sowing seeds of love in seasons where you received so little in return. And through it all, you see something you missed before. You were never unseen. The angel stands beside these memories as a witness. It is as if heaven is saying, "We saw this, we counted this, we honored this." Your silent suffering was never dismissed as weakness. Your tears were never treated as waste. Your heartbreak was never overlooked. Heaven collected each moment like a sacred offering. Psalm 56 speaks of God gathering every tear in a bottle, recording every sorrow in his book. And now you see this truth illustrated before you. Your tears were not just emotional responses, they were spiritual seeds. They watered the ground of your destiny. They purified your intentions. They softened your heart without breaking it. Every tear you cried in silence held the weight of a prayer. Even when you didn't speak a single word, heaven heard the sound your soul made. As these memories rise around you, you notice something else. You survived battles you never told anyone about. There were moments when grief threatened to drown you, yet you rose. Moments when anxiety gripped your spirit, yet you walked forward. Moments when your confidence shattered, yet you kept going. Moments when loneliness wrapped around you, yet you didn't close your heart. You were living through warfare far deeper than anyone realized, and still you kept your spirit pointed toward the light. You didn't allow bitterness to reshape you. You didn't allow pain to turn your heart cold. You didn't allow betrayal to make you unkind. These silent victories were not small, they were monumental. The messenger angel reveals scenes of these internal battles, as if heaven is presenting evidence of your spiritual strength. Not strength built on pride or performance, but strength built on endurance, humility, surrender, and faith. You see how many times you broke but did not fall apart. How many times you questioned but did not walk away. How many times you felt empty but continued giving. These were the moments that shaped you into someone heaven could trust. Your silent battles were not the sign of someone weak. They were the mark of someone chosen. The enemy does not invest in attacking what is insignificant. The darkness you faced was proof of the destiny you carry. And every moment you resisted despair, every moment you chose hope, every moment you reached for God in the quiet of your own soul became an act of spiritual warfare. You may not have called them battles at the time, but heaven did. You thought you were simply trying to stay afloat, but heaven saw you conquering storms. You thought you were just surviving heartbreak, but heaven saw you purifying your spirit. You thought you were enduring disappointment, but heaven saw you building endurance. Every private battle became a spiritual breakthrough long before you realized its significance. The angel reveals these moments not with drama, but with honor. You see how your perseverance created a shift in the spiritual realm. How your refusal to collapse opened doors of protection around you. How your tears built altars of remembrance. How heaven moved toward you each time you felt alone. You begin to understand. Your battles were not wasted. They were counted. They were measured. They were carried into God's presence. Your life became a testimony long before your breakthrough appeared. Another layer unfolds. The angel reveals how your private suffering shaped your future blessings. Not as a transaction, but as transformation. Your pain softened the soil of your destiny so what is planted next can flourish. Your integrity during hardship became the root system for what God is about to grow. Your faith in the valley prepared you to receive joy on the mountain. You see now that heaven has never been indifferent toward your suffering. When others dismissed your pain, heaven recorded it. When others misinterpreted your endurance, heaven honored it. When others did not notice your breaking, heaven collected your tears like rare treasure. And then a deeper truth rises within your awareness. There were moments that nearly destroyed you, yet didn't, not because you were strong, but because heaven intervened. The angel reveals flashes of dangers you never saw, situations that could have spiraled, people who could have harmed you emotionally or spiritually, circumstances that should have ended your hope. You see that every time darkness tried to consume your spirit, heaven stood in the way. You were protected from what you didn't even know was aimed at you. Your silent battles were not fought alone. Now you sense the weight of this revelation settling into your spirit. Your tears built the foundation for your breakthrough. Your endurance fertilized the ground for your elevation. Your pain shaped the character needed to carry your purpose. What you live through privately has become the spiritual currency for what you are about to receive publicly. And as this chapter closes, one truth becomes impossible to ignore. You were faithful in your pain, faithful in your silence, faithful in your breaking. And heaven was faithful to you in ways you never saw. Your reward is not coming because of your suffering, it is coming because of your endurance, your character, and your unshakable heart. Heaven is not just comforting you. Heaven is validating you. Heaven is honoring you. Heaven is moving for you. Your silent battles were never silent in heaven. As the revelations continue unfolding, you begin to sense that the angel is not simply showing you memories. Heaven is allowing you to witness the spiritual meaning behind your suffering. The scenes do not rise to bring pain back into your awareness. They rise to show you what heaven was building through them. Each moment becomes illuminated with purpose. You start to understand that what you called breaking was actually becoming, and what you called loss was actually preparation. You are shown a memory of yourself sitting alone in a quiet room, the weight of disappointment pressing heavily against your chest. At the time, you felt isolated, unseen, forgotten, but through the lens of heaven, you now see something different. You see the glow of divine presence surrounding you, the invisible nearness of God supporting the edges of your fragile heart. You see that heaven counted that moment, not as weakness, but as faith, because even in despair, your spirit remained open to God. Another moment appears, one where betrayal pierced you deeper than you could explain. You held your pain privately, offering forgiveness in silence, choosing healing over retaliation. In that moment, heaven recorded your restraint as righteousness. Not because you were expected to be perfect, but because you chose purity over destruction. You chose to keep your heart uncorrupted, even when hurt tried to twist it. Heaven honored that choice. Then comes the memory of a day when exhaustion nearly convinced you to give up on everything, not just your dreams, but your belief that things could ever turn around. You didn't quit. You stood, even if barely. You breathed, even when it felt suffocating. You whispered hope into the void, even when nothing around you reflected that hope. Heaven counted your stubborn endurance as worship. Your resilience in that moment was treated as a declaration of faith, even though your lips spoke no prayer. Heaven never measured your strength by performance. Heaven measured it by persistence. And now, the angel reveals something deeper. Your tears did not simply fall, they traveled. They moved. Every tear you shed in secret ascended spiritually into the presence of God. Every tear became a seed. Every tear carried meaning. The angel lets you see them not as drops of sorrow but as pearls shining, preserved, sacred. Heaven saved them, because heaven values what your heart endured. You begin to understand Psalm 56:8 with new eyes. God did not pity you. God collected you. Your suffering became sacred history. But heaven shows you that your tears did something even more powerful. They watered your future. They softened the soil of your destiny. They fertilized the ground for breakthrough. They purified your motives. They strengthened your compassion. They deepened your spiritual sight. Your pain became the foundation for your becoming. Another memory rises, this one from a moment where you hid your heartbreak behind a smile. You were surrounded by others, yet felt painfully alone. You remained kind, even when you had the right to withdraw. You stayed supportive, even while carrying your own wounds. Heaven now shows you the spiritual light that radiated from that moment. Your compassion did not go unnoticed. It released a fragrance in the realm of God. A fragrance of humility. A fragrance of selflessness. A fragrance of strength wrapped in gentleness. This fragrance is what summoned heaven's response. You begin to sense now that every silent battle was more powerful than any public victory. You didn't fight with swords, arguments, or defenses. You fought with endurance, with quiet faith, with sacred restraint, with unwavering integrity. Heaven values such battles more than anything visible, because they reveal the truth of your spirit. Now the angel reveals moments of spiritual warfare you were never aware of. You see shadows of danger approaching your life, circumstances that could have destroyed your hope, broken your identity, or pulled you into cycles of despair. And yet, every time these forces attempted to move toward you, a barrier rose: light, protection, angelic defense. You didn't see the attack, and you didn't see the shield, but both were real. Heaven intervened repeatedly on your behalf. This is why you survived situations that felt too heavy. This is why you walked through fires without being consumed. This is why you came close to losing yourself, but never truly did. Divine protection wasn't something you earned. It was something God freely extended because He saw the purity of your heart. You now understand that your survival was never accidental, it was orchestrated. Your tears, your prayers, your endurance, they all created spiritual movement. Each moment of perseverance pushed back against darkness. Each time you remained faithful, you disrupted demonic assignments. Each moment you chose love, heaven strengthened your covering. Your resilience was not passive, it was warfare. Silent warfare, but warfare nonetheless. The angel's presence reveals yet another truth. Your pain was counted as investment. You invested tears into your calling. You invested strength into your future. You invested hope into barren seasons. You invested love into places that did not love you. And heaven kept record of every deposit. Just as seeds buried in the ground appear forgotten but are actually germinating, your suffering was never dormant. It transformed you. It grew roots beneath your consciousness. It produced spiritual fruit long before you tasted it. And now, heaven is showing you that your silent endurance did not simply build strength, it altered your destiny's timeline. Heaven reveals that your quiet obedience accelerated breakthrough. Your tears were not setbacks, they were catalysts. Your endurance didn't delay blessings, it unlocked them. Every time you kept your heart open to God despite disappointment, heaven advanced your timing. Every time you forgave instead of retaliating, heaven removed obstacles from your path. Every moment you trusted while hurting altered the trajectory of your story. Your suffering was not a detour, it was a doorway. You begin to realize now that the spiritual honor you are receiving is not pity, it is compensation. It is heaven's acknowledgement that you carried heavy battles with grace. It is heaven's confirmation that your private victories were just as significant as any public accomplishment. And then another revelation rises from within you. Your identity was shaped in those silent battles. You became wiser without becoming hardened. You became compassionate without becoming naive. You became resilient without becoming closed. You became discerning without becoming cynical. Your silent suffering refined you into someone who can carry responsibility without arrogance, influence without corruption, and authority without harshness. This is why heaven is moving on your behalf now, because your heart remained pure when it had every reason to turn bitter. Your pain built the capacity for your purpose, and as this section comes to its close, the angel stands as living testimony that nothing was wasted. Not one moment, not one tear, not one heartbreak, not one endurance, not one silent battle. Heaven counted everything, honored everything, preserved everything, and is now responding to everything. You are entering a season shaped, not by what you lost, but by what you endured. Not by what harmed you, but by what strengthened you. Not by your suffering, but by your faithfulness. Your tears watered the ground of your breakthrough. Your endurance built the foundation of your elevation. Your silent battles became the evidence heaven needed to release what comes next. And what comes next is shaped by glory. There comes a point in your journey where heaven begins to show you the truth behind the shadows you walk through. The truth that darkness was not a sign of your weakness, but the very environment where your light was being forged. As this chapter opens, the messenger angel stands beside you once again, not to revisit pain, but to reveal the spiritual identity that was shaped through every moment of your endurance. And as the revelations begin to unfold, you start to understand something profound. You never walked through darkness as a victim. You walked through it as someone being refined into radiance. The angel unveils moments where you once felt small beneath the weight of your struggles, where fear hovered like a heavy fog, where confusion wrapped itself around your spirit. In those seasons, you believed the darkness was swallowing you. You believed the heaviness meant something was wrong with you. You believed your faith was failing. But now, through the lens of heaven, you see something entirely different. You see how your light intensified with each shadow that pressed against it. You see yourself in moments where you felt spiritually numb, where the world around you dimmed and your prayers felt hollow. But instead of seeing emptiness, you now see glow. A quiet glow. A stubborn glow. A glow that refused to die. It flickers at first, barely noticeable. Yet, the angel reveals that even then, especially then, your light was stronger than you realized. Darkness tried to drown you, yet your spirit refused to be extinguished. Your resilience was not human, your resilience was divine. The angel reveals scenes of spiritual resistance you never knew existed. You see moments where heaviness entered your life, not by accident, but by assignment. Dark forces attempting to disrupt your calling, distort your identity, steal your hope. Yet every time darkness approached, your light reacted. Not by shrinking, not by hiding, but by strengthening. Your spirit did not collapse. It responded. The trials didn't dim your light. They clarified it. You begin to understand that your spirit carries something that cannot be replicated or replaced. It is not the kind of light built through ease or comfort. It is the kind of light forged under pressure, heat, and opposition. The kind of light that grows stronger in adversity because it is not sourced from you, it is sourced from God. And now you see why darkness targeted you so relentlessly. Your calling carries weight. People with shallow purpose rarely experience deep spiritual resistance. But you were never meant for shallow purpose. Every time you stepped into a new level of spiritual awareness, opposition increased. Every time you aligned with truth, darkness trembled. Every time you rose from something that should have broken you, realms shifted. Your survival disrupted demonic plans. Your awakening challenged spiritual cycles. Your persistence destabilized what was meant to take you out. The angel reveals protective interventions. Heaven performed on your behalf. Moments where danger approached, yet you were shielded without knowing it. Situations that seemed normal at the time but were actually spiritual crossroads. People who drifted away, not because they chose to, but because heaven removed them to protect your destiny. Conversations that never happened because God closed doors before darkness could speak. Attacks that never reached you because your angels intercepted them. Your survival was never luck. It was strategy. Your protection was never coincidence. It was intention. And in this unveiling, you begin to see how heaven fought for you while you were busy fighting to stay afloat. Darkness never overtook you because it was never allowed to. You walked through fire, but you were never consumed. You walked through storms, but you were never swept away. You walked through shadows, but your light never disappeared. It sharpened. This is why you carry a certain spiritual presence now, a presence you have sensed, but not fully understood. People are drawn to you without knowing why. Others feel uneasy around you even though you've done nothing to provoke them. Environments shift when you enter them. Conversations change when you speak. This is the nature of light. Light reveals, light disrupts, light awakens, light disarms darkness simply by existing. The angel shows you moments where your presence alone altered the outcome of situations. You didn't preach. You didn't persuade. You didn't perform. You simply existed as someone who carries heaven within. And because of that, spiritual atmospheres adjusted themselves around you. Your light became a force long before you understood its purpose. Your trials did not weaken your identity, they revealed it. Next, the angel allows you to see how your spirit looked during seasons when you believed you were spiritually failing. You see yourself weary, discouraged, depleted, yet your spirit glows like refined metal, burnished, unbroken, brilliant. It is in these moments that you finally understand John 1:5 inches a personal way. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness cannot overcome it. You realize, darkness never defeated you because it never had the power to. Every storm you endured heightened your illumination. Every disappointment strengthened your endurance. Every attack sharpened your discernment. Every heartbreak expanded your compassion. What was meant to break you instead refined you into something radiant, something powerful, something spiritually untouchable. You see now that your light is not fragile. It is fortified. It is ancient, eternal, divinely sourced. It does not depend on your mood, your circumstances, or your environment. It is woven into your identity. It is the mark of someone who has been chosen, tested, carried, and protected by God. The angel reveals another truth. Your light disrupted generational patterns. There were cycles in your lineage that attempted to continue through you, cycles of fear, trauma, disappointment, limitation. Yet your endurance broke what your ancestors could not. You rose not only for yourself, but for an entire bloodline. You resisted darkness, not only for your future, but for those who come after you. Your light carries legacy, and heaven honors that. As you continue to watch these scenes unfold, you start to understand your story with new clarity. You weren't simply trying to survive life. You were being trained. Not trained for suffering, but trained for authority. Trained to carry a mantle that requires strength. Trained to carry a calling that requires purity. Trained to walk in rooms where spiritual light is needed. Trained to withstand pressure without compromise. Every shadow taught you something. Every dark season strengthened something. Every hidden battle revealed something. Every attack awakened something. You were not diminished. You were reinforced. The angel's presence confirms this truth. The version of you standing in this moment is no longer vulnerable to the darkness that once intimidated you. You have become someone who cannot be overtaken. Someone who cannot be manipulated by fear. Someone who cannot be deceived by illusion. Someone who cannot be removed from purpose by emotional storms. You have become flame in human form, purified, steady, luminous. You walk through things that should have extinguished you. Instead, they transformed you. Instead, they intensified you. Instead, they anointed you with resilience and clarity. Your light has authority now. Your spirit has weight now. Your identity has depth now. You understand darkness differently because you survived it intimately. And now you carry light that darkness cannot touch. As this part concludes, one truth settles into your spirit with unmistakable certainty. Darkness did not shape your destiny. Your destiny shaped how you walked through darkness. You are not just someone who survived. You are someone who was transformed into radiance. As the revelations continue unfolding, you sense something shifting not around you, but within you. A realization begins rising like dawn across your spirit. The darkness that once terrified you has now become the very proof of what you carry. You are no longer looking at your past from the standpoint of survival, you're seeing it from the vantage point of victory. The angel's presence deepens this awareness, guiding your understanding without a single spoken word, only through a profound unveiling of spiritual truth. You start to recognize that the seasons you once called attacks, heaven called activation. The seasons you called confusion, heaven called awakening. The seasons you called loss, heaven called light-making. Every place where darkness pressed against you was actually a forge shaping you, tempering you, strengthening you. Not one shadow ever touched you without the permission of the God who knew exactly what it would produce. The angel now reveals specific moments where darkness tried to overtake you, times you felt overwhelmed, exhausted, spiritually drained, times when discouragement whispered lies into your heart, times when loneliness wrapped around you like heavy fog, times when you questioned your purpose, your value, your strength. But as these moments reappear through heaven's lens, you begin to notice something you never saw before. Behind every moment of overwhelm, your spirit still gleamed. The angel allows you to see yourself through heaven's eyes, not as someone stumbling through darkness, but as someone expanding through it. You see how your identity shifted during seasons of hardship. You didn't crumble, you adapted. You didn't collapse, you recalibrated. You didn't drown, you resurfaced stronger. Every attempt to extinguish you ended up strengthening your flame. This is when you realize that your identity was never fragile. It was fierce. It was eternal. It was crafted from divine origin. Your light wasn't born the day you overcame darkness. Your light existed long before darkness ever approached you. And now, The angel reveals why your battles were so intense. Your light carried a magnitude that darkness recognized immediately, even when you didn't. Spiritual opposition doesn't target the weak. It targets the powerful. Darkness does not pursue the empty. It pursues the anointed. The enemy never wastes resources on what poses no threat. Your existence was a threat. Your calling was a threat. Your resilience was a threat. Every time you rose again, darkness trembled. Every time you forgave, atmospheres shifted. Every time you chose kindness, spiritual realms reacted. Your presence carried light that disrupted dark agendas long before you consciously knew it. And now the angel reveals another truth. The darkness that surrounded you in certain seasons wasn't just external, it was ancestral. There were battles that didn't begin with you. Heavy emotions that belonged to the generations before you. Patterns of fear, cycles of struggle, shadows of spiritual resistance that followed your bloodline until they reached you. But the moment they reached you, something changed. They began to break. You didn't just survive what attacked you, you ended what attacked those who came before you. Your endurance interrupted generational cycles. Your light disrupted generational darkness. You weren't simply fighting for yourself, you were fighting for your lineage. Heaven shows you that your survival was not only spiritual victory, it was generational liberation. Then the angel reveals scenes of danger you never saw. Your spirit watches as moments unfold, where darkness attempted strategies you were completely unaware of, plans to derail your purpose, distort your identity, or lure you into destructive cycles. You see glimpses of these threats rising like shadows, only to be struck down by divine intervention before they ever reached you. You were protected more times than you can count. You were shielded in ways you never recognized. You were saved from battles you didn't know existed. Your light was covered until it matured. Your destiny was guarded until you were ready. Your calling was hidden until the right moment. This is why certain relationships fell apart before they damaged you. This is why certain opportunities collapsed before you stepped into misalignment. This is why certain paths closed before you wasted years walking the wrong way. What you called rejection was divine redirection. What you called loss was divine shielding. What you called failure was divine preservation. And through this revelation, you begin understanding something profound. Your light was not fragile. It was too valuable to expose prematurely. Heaven hid you in certain seasons not because you were unqualified, but because you were becoming. A light that shines too early risks being extinguished. A flame not yet strengthened by resistance risks being blown out. So heaven sheltered you until your resilience caught up with your calling. And now the angel demonstrates how your light appears in the spiritual realm. It isn't soft or delicate. It is bold. It is radiant. It expands like a fire that refuses to die. Its edges shimmer with authority. Its core carries purity. Its presence radiates a warmth that brings clarity, truth, and stability. Your light has weight, presence, influence, authority. People feel it before they understand it. Atmospheres shift because of it. Darkness retreats in response to it. The angel reveals that the light you carry is not something you produced. It is something you inherited from God. You were created to shine, created to illuminate, created to disrupt darkness, created to carry spiritual authority. And it was the seasons of suffering that unlocked this authority. Because authority is not developed in comfort, it is forged in adversity. Then another layer of understanding unfolds. You carry a mantle of light that darkness cannot overcome. This mantle wasn't granted because you were perfect. It was granted because you endured. It wasn't given because you were always strong. It was given because you refused to surrender. It wasn't placed on you because you never struggled. It was placed on you because you kept rising despite the struggle. Your perseverance became your anointing. Your survival became your credibility. Your journey became your authority. And now, heaven shows you the final revelation of this chapter. Your light is not simply the result of your past battles. It is the instrument of your future purpose. Everything you endured sharpened the radiance you now carry. Every dark room you survived prepared you to illuminate the ones you are called to enter next. Every shadow that tried to swallow you strengthened the glow you will carry into the lives of others. You are becoming someone whose presence reveals truth, dispels illusion, breaks spiritual heaviness, and awakens the sleeping spirits around you. Someone whose life testifies that darkness does not win. Someone whose identity proves that God can transform even the deepest wounds into radiant purpose. As this part of your story settles into place, one truth becomes undeniable. Your light was not the result of escaping darkness. Your light was the result of overcoming darkness. You did not survive as a dim flame. You survived as a rising fire. Darkness had its chance, but you had destiny. And destiny won. As you step into this next dimension of revelation, the atmosphere around you begins to shift again, not with fire or darkness this time, but with a profound sense of movement. Something in the spiritual realm feels as if it is realigning, as if long-stuck gears are finally beginning to turn. The messenger angel does not speak, but the very presence radiates a truth you can feel before you can understand. The time of delay is lifting. Before this truth unveils itself fully, heaven draws you into an understanding of what caused the delay in the first place. Not to burden you with regret, but to reveal how deeply your obedience has shaped your journey. You begin to see seasons of your life not as disconnected moments, but as threads in a divine tapestry, times when you felt like everything was slowing down, where progress seemed impossible, where opportunities dissolved before they could take form. You see the disappointment you carried when your prayers seemed suspended in midair. You see the confusion you felt when nothing aligned, no matter how much faith you applied. And now the angel reveals the truth behind those seasons. They were never the result of God withholding. They were the result of spiritual resistance. You see it visually now, almost like a veil lifting in the spiritual realm. Moments where blessings were on their way to you, yet something unseen pushed back against them. Something ancient, something intentional, something targeted. The spirit of delay was not a metaphor, it was an assignment. Not assigned because you were weak, but because your destiny carried weight. The greater the calling, the greater the resistance. The greater the impact, the greater the interference. The greater the anointing, the greater the warfare around timing. You begin to understand that delay was not denial, it was confrontation in the spiritual realm. And heaven is now showing you how the enemy fought to slow your progress. Not because you lacked worth, but because you held potential that threatened darkness. But then something profound happens in this revelation. The angel reveals the reason that delay could not win. Your obedience. Ender, your obedience, even in confusion. Your obedience, even in silence. Your obedience, even in heartbreak. Your obedience, even in seasons that felt barren. Every time you said yes to God, whether spoken out loud or whispered in your heart, became a force of spiritual disruption. Your yes was not small. It was a weapon. Every yes opened pathways. Every yes dismantled resistance. Every yes shifted spiritual timelines. You are shown specific moments where your obedience altered the plan of heaven in your favor. Times when you chose forgiveness over retaliation. Times when you protected your heart instead of lashing out. Times when you stayed tender even when life tried to harden you. Times when you surrendered your pride, your timing, your desires, and said quietly within, God, I trust you. These yeses carried power far beyond what you realized. You thought you were simply choosing goodness, but heaven saw you breaking generational patterns. You thought you were just choosing peace, but heaven saw you stopping spiritual warfare from gaining access. You thought you were being silent to avoid conflict, but heaven saw you shutting down demonic strategies. Your obedience was never small. Your yeses were never insignificant. Each one changed something unseen. And now the angel reveals scenes from the spiritual realm that bring this truth into clarity. You see how your obedience set off light like ripples in the dark. You see how every act of integrity weakened the grip of resistance. You see how every moment you chose to remain soft-hearted created cracks in barriers that surrounded your destiny. You see how every decision to follow the prompting of the Spirit, even when it didn't make sense, redirected your path closer to breakthrough. Heaven shows you that your yeses worked like keys. Keys that unlocked timelines. Keys that opened realms. Keys that broke chains. Every yes moved something forward. And then another truth unfolds. It wasn't just your yes that mattered, it was your consistency. Heaven honors obedience, but it especially honors endurance in obedience. Your yes didn't happen once. It happened again and again, in situations where obedience cost you comfort, relationships, opportunities, and illusions. You weren't just obedient, you were steadfast. Heaven counted not only the moments when obedience felt easy, but the moments when obedience broke your heart. Those were your most powerful yeses. The yes you gave when you walked away from what was familiar. The yes you gave when you swallowed your pride. The yes you gave when you chose healing over revenge. The yes you gave when you protected your purity of heart in the midst of betrayal. It was your yes in the dark that created your breakthrough in the light. The angel now reveals scenes of battles fought on your behalf, battles you never saw, battles you never felt, battles you never even knew were happening. Heavenly hosts resisting the forces that tried to delay your promise. Moments when heaven fought to push blessings toward you, even while resistance attempted to push them away. You begin to see that your prayers did not disappear, they entered warfare. Your dreams did not dissolve, they entered spiritual negotiation. Your blessings did not vanish, they entered the realm of divine timing. And now that timing has come into alignment. The angel reveals an image, symbolic in nature, spiritual chains snapping in rapid succession, barriers dissolving, shadows retreating. The feeling of spiritual congestion is replaced with movement, momentum, clarity. The resistance that once felt immovable now feels defeated. Not by accident, not by luck, but by the accumulation of every yes you ever gave God. Your obedience broke delay. This realization pours over you with warmth and gravity. Heaven is not only acknowledging your endurance, it is rewarding it. The angel allows you to feel the weight of heaven's satisfaction, not pride, not pressure, but delight, pure delight. You remained aligned even when you didn't understand. You remained faithful even when you were tired. You remained surrendered even when you had reasons to rebel. You remained open even when pain tried to close you. Your obedience has shifted your future. Your obedience has realigned your timing. Your obedience has accelerated your destiny. And then another revelation emerges. The acceleration you are stepping into is not simply heaven moving faster. It is heaven moving because of you. Your character now matches your calling. Your endurance now matches your elevation. Your spirit now matches your assignment. Delay breaks when maturity arrives. And you have arrived. As this part of the chapter closes, you feel the atmosphere around your life vibrating with divine anticipation. What once felt distant now feels imminent. What once felt delayed now feels accelerated. What once felt blocked now feels open. Heaven is not preparing to move, heaven is already moving. One truth settles into your spirit as the angel's presence amplifies this new alignment. Your yes rewritten your story. Your obedience shattered your opposition. Your faithfulness altered your timeline. And now heaven declares not in words, but in revelation. Your delay is over. As this revelation deepens, you begin to sense that something has fundamentally shifted inside you, an internal unlocking, a spiritual release, a lifting that feels both subtle and immense. The messenger angel remains by your side, not stirring the air with wings or sound, but radiating the unmistakable awareness that you are now standing in a place your spirit has been waiting for. A place where delay no longer has authority. A place where the weight that once clung to your progress has finally broken under the force of your obedience. Heaven does not bring you into this moment to merely observe it. Heaven brings you into this moment to step into it. And the angel reveals what this transition means by showing you something you've never seen before. The empire of resistance that once surrounded your path and how it has now been dismantled. You see a landscape symbolizing your journey, a place where roads once twisted into detours, where paths were blocked by unseen obstacles, where doors hovered in front of you but refused to open. This landscape had been the spiritual reflection of the delay you lived through. But now, under the light released from your obedience, it changes. The obstacles begin dissolving. Barriers fall like dust. Roads straighten. Doorways open. What once appeared complicated becomes clear. What once felt impossible becomes accessible. This is the effect of your obedience. It didn't only break delay, it reshaped your future. And now the angel reveals the truth behind why your obedience carried so much power. Because it was formed in seasons when disobedience would have been easier. You chose surrender when pride begged to speak. You chose restraint when emotion pushed to react. You chose forgiveness when bitterness called your name. You chose integrity when compromise could have offered relief. You chose patience when impatience screamed through your bones. These choices weren't just moral decisions, they were spiritual warfare. When no one was watching, you were choosing heaven. Every yes refined your character. Every yes aligned your spirit. Every yes protected your destiny. Heaven always responds to hearts that remain surrendered when life could have justified rebellion. Now the angel reveals another truth. Your obedience built momentum. Not ordinary momentum. Supernatural momentum. You begin to see it visually, as if every yes you gave God became a wave. Each wave pushed against delay. Each wave weakened resistance. Each wave prepared the way ahead. Eventually, your yeses created a spiritual tide strong enough to break what held you back for so long. Your yeses became force. Your yeses became motion. Your yeses became breakthrough. The angel then reveals something more intimate, a view of your heart throughout the years. You see seasons when your obedience was quiet and costly. Times when choosing God meant losing people. Times when choosing truth meant walking alone. Times when choosing growth meant outgrowing what once felt comfortable. Times when choosing purity meant letting go of connections that fed your wounds, but not your purpose. These moments were painful, but heaven calls them holy. Obedience birthed your becoming. Obedience purified your spirit. Obedience broke attachments that would have sabotaged your calling. Every surrender you made, heaven used. And now the angel brings forward another revelation, a layer of truth you did not know you needed. Your obedience did not only break spiritual delay, it also protected you from spiritual acceleration that would have been too heavy for your unhealed heart. Delay was not always resistance. At times, delay was mercy. You see moments when blessings hovered near you, but heaven withheld them, not as punishment, but as protection. You weren't ready. Your heart still carried wounds that could have distorted the gift. Your mind still wrestled with old patterns that would have mishandled new opportunity. Your spirit was still growing into the strength needed to sustain elevation. Heaven delayed certain blessings so that when they arrived, they wouldn't destroy you, they would expand you. This is why obedience mattered. Your obedience matured you. It taught you patience, clarity, wisdom, restraint, stability, discernment. Heaven waited until the version of you that could receive the blessing had finally emerged. And now that version is here, matured by surrender, strengthened by endurance, refined by truth, stabilized by spiritual growth. You are not receiving blessings as the same person who once begged for them. You are receiving blessings as the person who can now sustain them. Then the angel shifts your awareness, drawing you to another revelation, the truth that your obedience not only affected your life, but the lives of those connected to your future. When you chose alignment over impulse, you didn't just break delay for yourself, you broke it for those who will be impacted by your purpose. Your yes created generational shifts. Your obedience is opening paths for people who will walk in the wake of your calling. Heaven needed you obedient because heaven knew what your obedience would unlock for others. Your yes carried generational weight. And now the angel reveals something even more profound: you were never obeying alone. Heaven partnered with your obedience. Each yes you gave was met with a corresponding movement from God. Even when you felt like your obedience went unnoticed, heaven was responding in real time, rearranging circumstances, rerouting danger, preparing opportunities, aligning people, dissolving obstacles. Your obedience activated heaven. You now begin to sense why this moment feels so different from every season before it. It is not simply because delay is broken, it is because your obedience has brought you into spiritual maturity. The kind of maturity that heaven crowns. The kind of maturity that heaven accelerates. The kind of maturity that heaven trusts. And then the final revelation of this part settles over you. Obedience invites acceleration because obedience proves readiness. Readiness of character, readiness of heart, readiness of identity, readiness of spirit. Your yeses have become proof that you are ready for what is next. In this moment, the angel's presence intensifies, not as a pressure, but as a confirmation. You feel the atmosphere around your life shift into alignment. You feel the spiritual ground beneath you firming. You feel the weight of previous seasons falling away. You feel the forward pull of heaven beginning to gather strength. Delay is not just broken behind you, acceleration is building ahead of you. The angel stands as witness to this truth. Your obedience reshaped your time. Your yes rebuilt your destiny. Your surrender sealed your breakthrough. And as this part closes, you finally understand the transformation unfolding within you. Your life is no longer marked by waiting. Your life is marked by readiness. And heaven moves quickly for the ready. As this final chapter of Revelation begins, there is a shift in the atmosphere so subtle at first, yet unmistakable. It feels as though the ground beneath your spirit has changed texture, as if the air around you is filled with a holy weight. The messenger angel remains present, and though nothing is spoken aloud, something is communicated instantly. You have stepped into the chamber of reward. This chamber is not a physical place, but a spiritual reality. It is the dimension where everything that was sown in private begins to manifest in divine fullness. It is the realm where faithfulness is honored, where endurance is crowned, where obedience becomes mantle, and where identity rises into purpose. You feel yourself being drawn deeper into this revelation, drawn by the gravity of heaven's recognition. All the silence, all the sacrifice, all the unseen labor of your heart has led you here. Not to be congratulated, but to be entrusted. Not to be applauded, but to be elevated. The angel reveals the truth with a quiet radiance. You have entered your reward season. Not a season shaped by striving, but by fulfillment. Not a season shaped by loss, but by restoration. Not a season shaped by delay, but by acceleration. And as your awareness expands, you begin to see something extraordinary unfolding before you, an unveiling of everything heaven prepared long before you ever walked through darkness or valleys. You see a crown unlike anything earthly, not made of jewels or metal, but of something weightless yet powerful. It glows with the essence of everything you overcame, every sacrifice, every tear, every private victory, every surrendered moment, every yes. This crown was not crafted recently. It was prepared before you were born. Heaven had your destiny in mind before you ever had language for your calling. But the crown remained in waiting until your character could carry what your spirit was destined for. Now, the angel reveals something profound. Your journey shaped your capacity to wear what was prepared for you. Every hardship strengthened the foundation of your identity. Every setback purified your intentions. Every dark season refined your humility. Every quiet surrender sharpened your character. And now, The crown represents not status, but stewardship, not glory, but assignment, not vanity, but purpose. The angel does not place the crown on you physically, it is revealed as an internal coronation. You feel it before you see it. A weight settling gently on your spirit, not heavy, but stabilizing. It feels like alignment, like destiny finally meeting readiness. You understand that the crown symbolizes heaven's recognition of your maturity, the confirmation that you have become someone who can be trusted with influence, authority, and spiritual responsibility. Then another revelation unfolds: the mantle. The mantle is different from the crown. The crown recognizes who you have become. The mantle empowers what you are called to do. The angel reveals the mantle as something woven from your own endurance. You see threads that look like moments when you held on to hope. Threads that resemble nights when you prayed while your heart was breaking. Threads formed from your forgiveness, your compassion, your resilience. The mantle is made of everything that tried to destroy you but failed. You are not just being crowned, you are being mantled. Not for comfort, but for calling. Not for applause, but for assignment. This mantle rests upon the steadfast, those who endured without losing their tenderness, those who were wounded but did not let the wounds take root, those who were attacked but refused to become what hurt them. You sense the mantle settling around you now, not as a garment, but as a spiritual authority, a covering, a weight, a responsibility that feels both grounding and empowering. You realize heaven is not merely rewarding you, heaven is commissioning you. And then the angel reveals what your reward season contains. You see honor rising to meet you not from people, but from heaven itself. Heaven honors what the world ignored. Heaven honors sacrifices that no one understood. Heaven honors quiet service, unseen integrity, and unspoken loyalty. This honor is not flattery. It is restoration of worth. You begin to see restoration unfolding layer after layer. Restoration of identity. Restoration of confidence. Restoration of joy. Restoration of purpose. Things that were stolen return in new form. Things that were delayed arrive accelerated. Things that were broken are healed with beauty. Things that were lost are revived with greater glory. You are also shown acceleration, not random, not chaotic, but strategic. You see blessings moving toward you with speed that defies logic. You see opportunities forming without force. You see alignment happening in places where doors once stayed closed. Everything that was hindered is now propelled forward because the timing of heaven has opened fully in your life. You see elevation, not for ego, but for purpose. You are being positioned, not promoted. Positioned to impact, positioned to shine, positioned to speak truth and carry light into places still asleep in darkness. This elevation is gentle but unstoppable, humble but undeniable. Heaven is expanding your influence because your heart proved it can carry responsibility without corruption. Then you begin to see the internal rewards, the kind that cannot be quantified. You feel peace entering you like breath, deep, steady, healing. You feel clarity sharpening your perspective. You feel boldness rising where fear once lived. You feel stability anchoring your emotions. You feel identity strengthening your posture. These internal rewards are not separate from the crown and the mantle, they are the fruit of them. Finally, the angel reveals the external rewards. You see pathways clearing. You see relationships forming, chosen, purposeful, aligned. You see opportunities opening, not because you demanded them, but because heaven ordained them. You see provision flowing, not through struggle, but through favor. You realize this truth. This is the season where heaven repays faithfulness, not as compensation for suffering, but as fulfillment of promise. Not as charity, but as inheritance. Not because you earned it, but because you remained faithful long enough to receive it. The angel's presence affirms the closing revelation of this part. Your set time of favor has come. You are not stepping into reward because you avoided hardship. You are stepping into reward because you endured it with purity, integrity, and faith. You are crowned. You are mantled. You are recognized. You are ready. Thank you so much for joining us on this divine journey today. If this message resonated with you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. We want to keep spreading these life-changing insights to those who need it the most. Your support helps us reach more people, and together, we can create a wave of transformation that will ripple across the world. If you're ready to embrace the transformation that's unfolding in your life, let us know in the comments below. Remember, your breakthrough is coming, and we're here to walk with you every step of the way. Stay aligned, stay faith-filled, and see you in the next video.